Yogi clan, welcome back to Safety Tip Tuesday on this bright, early Tuesday morning. It is sunshiny here in Charlotte. Finally, I think the rain has moved away. I want to talk to you today about braking. Now, I am not a motorcycle safety instructor by any stretch of the imagination. Heck, not even taken a motorcycle safety class. I'd probably like to someday. I might pick up a few tips and tricks, but no, I haven't taken one yet. And sorry if the sun is shining bright on this camera like a diamond. My kids will get that joke. Anyways, wanted to talk to you about brakes. Wanted to talk to you about what I've learned just through 30 years of riding. So I grew up on four-wheelers and dirt bikes. I would borrow my neighbor's dirt bike, and I grew up on four-wheelers. When I was, I guess 12 or 13, I learned how to kickstart my first four-wheeler that I had. And from riding that four-wheeler, I was used to riding bicycles as a kid, BMX bikes or whatever. And when you're riding bicycles, you use your rear brake heavy. Well, when I rode dirt bikes and four-wheelers, I used my rear brake heavy. Heck, I don't even know if I really even used my front brake on the four-wheeler, only if it was a fast stop type situation. But it was pretty much always the rear brake. Dirt bike, pretty much always the rear brake. Very rarely did I ever use the front brakes. So naturally, when I converted over to street bikes, that's what I knew. That's what had experience with, was using rear brakes. So the first street bike I had was a 79 Kawasaki 650. It was used when I bought it. It was a 79. I probably bought it in 93, so it was 14 years old. It was just an around town bike. I really never took it over the road, over any major trips anywhere. It was just purely an around town. And then when I bought my first Harley, I was 33 when I bought the Fat Boy. And I quickly learned on that bike how dangerous it is to rely exclusively on your rear brake. And at that point in time, my wife and I were in a hog chapter, and some of those people had taken the motorcycle safety class, and just through discussion, I heard everybody talking about, oh yeah, I use 70% front brake and 30% rear brake. And in my brain, I was like, that's weird. But let me tell you, the first time I had a panic situation and dirt bike skills kicked in and I mashed that rear brake, that rear tire locked up, and that bike, suddenly I was going down the road sideways. I was like, quick let off the rear brake, mash on the front brake, and when you mash on that front brake, it drops that front end down quite substantially, but it doesn't spin you around like mashing on your rear brake does. So I eventually learned is through normal driving situations, I'm running 70% front, 30% rear, but when I'm in an emergency stop, and this is now, mind you, for a non-ABS bike. I think with an ABS bike, you can afford to be a little bit more sloppy, but a non-ABS bike, you really can't. And during emergency fast stop situations, I do 50% front, 50% rear. And then slowly taper off as needed. But when you do 50% front and 50% rear, it just kind of squats the whole bike down, because mashing the front will drop the front, mashing the back will drop the back, mashing them both equally will squat the bike down and it'll slow it down, and it keeps the bike balanced and level, so it's not doing this on you or whatever. It just squashes it down and keeps you going straight. I remember when I was riding to DC, one of the butt pucker moment times, it was in the rain. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night. I was on 301 up in like Upper Marlboro Bowie area on 301 up in Maryland. And we were rolling. It was 3-lane wide road. I was in the left lane following a car. There's another car in the center lane. The light's probably 50 yards off. It turns yellow. I hear the car in the center lane accelerate, and the car in front of me starts accelerating. Then suddenly, out of the middle of the blue, the car in front of me decided to stop. I feel like stopping instead. So he went to stop. I'm now in acceleration mode, and suddenly the car in front of me is stopping. I mash on those brakes, and I mashed on the rear brake, and it was raining. And instantly I'm going down the road. Now I'm looking this way. And of course I do the Fred Flintstone thing and put my left foot down on the ground. You know, dirt bike instincts kick back in, which is stupid because you will break your ankle in a heartbeat. Don't ever put your foot down on the ground until you're stopped. But I did. And luckily it was wet out and my foot just was sliding, and we were going down the road sideways. And then I darted over I managed to let off the rear brake, apply front brake, get it straightened back out again, and all at the same time move over into the center lane because that car had gone through the light. And I just slid out into the middle of the intersection and then turned and looked at the car that was now next to me, the idiot who decided to stop and just throw both my hands up like that, like, what are you doing? But there have been a few moments like that where it's just, you hit those moments where instinct takes over, and just so many years of riding dirt bikes and four-wheelers in the formative years have just made me mash the rear brake. And when I get in those situations, sometimes I mash that rear brake and all of a sudden I'm chirping sideways, and then oh yeah, everything else kicks in. I let off that rear brake and mash on the front. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to lock your front wheel, but I mash on it pretty hard. But not hard enough to lock it. Just hard enough to be slowing down and to get my back end straight again. And then I'll apply rear brake again to the back to help me slow down. But ABS bikes had a situation this past weekend. Me and James were rolling to Iron Thunder on Saturday. At a previous stoplight, he says to me he wants to hit a gas station. So we're rolling down the road, and I see a QT gas station coming up. So I look over at him, he looks at me, I point to the gas station, he nods, we both turn our head forward, and suddenly the road before the QT gas station, the car not in front of us but in front of them, is turning and doesn't have its turn signal on, which causes the car in front of me to stop short, which causes both of our eyes to go like this, and we both mash on the brakes in a quick stop moment. And again, dirt bike skills kick in. My right foot hits that brake and jams it down. And I did grab a good handful of front brake also, but primarily I was rear brake heavy. But that bike, I was on the Ultra, and it's ABS. When that ABS feels you start locking up, it's going to start pulsing and prevent you from locking up. So you can be a little bit more sloppy, in my opinion, on an ABS bike than you can on a non-ABS bike, in the sense that you're not going to suddenly be going down the road like this, like I would on my Fat Boy. But by all means, like I said, I am no brake expert. So take it for where it comes from. Get yourself a motorcycle safety class, but braking, it's very important, because if you're doing it wrong and you're not prepared for sliding sideways down the road, that can turn into a high side moment, or that can turn into you laying the bike over moment, or you losing control over the bike, especially for new riders who aren't prepared, new riders who aren't experienced. And maybe somebody somewhere is watching this who's a new rider, and if I can plant the seed in their head, 70% front, 30% rear, emergency stop, do 50-50, then maybe it'll save somebody from getting in an accident, like it saved me from when I heard that from a fellow Hog member. Because that has forever ingrained in my head now and stuck in my head. And when I started implementing that and practicing it, I found out, yeah, that works. It works. So a lot of the things that I have learned in life have been trial and error. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and not afraid to try new things. That's often the best way, especially for me, to learn. So there's your safety tip for Tuesday. Up and coming things, so I suggest you hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications so you see things coming. Yesterday I wrapped up editing the 2 videos, episode 2 and episode 3 of the Handlebar Project. I learned a lot. So let's just say, not the greatest videos ever. I will tell you that now. I'm probably going to upload them both tomorrow just to get them off my desk. I'm going to upload them both tomorrow. Not the greatest videos. It's more... I wanted it to be instructional, but like I said in a video a couple weeks ago, it's really hard to do instructional wrenching. It will triple your time. And because the handlebars were a challenge on this one, the meat hooks were a challenge, it delayed the project about 4 or 5 days, and I needed to get the bike back to the customer. So I wound up just having to do the work. I couldn't really talk through the work. So the next 2 videos are more like hanging out with Yogi in the garage. So when you watch them, think of it that way. It's more like hanging out with Yogi in the garage. It's not necessarily an instructional video on how to do each little step and component and bolt. It's more how's it going? Hanging out. Come hang out with me for a little while as we talk, tell stories, and some jokes. I did this past weekend completely tear into the Fat Boy. I did record that. Everything is done, is all fully disassembled now except for one bolt. There's one starter bolt. It's actually the front starter bolt, which I thought was going to be the easier bolt, but alas, not so. I got the rear bolt out, which is harder to get to. I got that one out with no problem. It's the front one that's a little bit more of a challenge. I may have to pull the oil tank to get this one off. So I may record just pulling the oil tank on the Fat Boy. That way it's instructional. But it is fully disassembled. I really wanted to have it reassembled on Sunday, but I need to go buy 2 shock bolts and have an automatic chain tensioner in the spring kit in there. One of the 2 springs is broken. There's an inner spring and an outer spring, and it's broken. So I called Hayden yesterday, who makes the M6 tensioner. So we'll see what their customer service is like, because I got their voicemail. They're out of California. But the chain tensioner is probably 12 years old, 10, 12 years old. So we'll see what their customer service is like and what they do to help. I mean, if they pull me if they send me some springs, we'll just see what they do. But that may be a subject for a product review video also, or a customer service review. But so far, I got their voicemail, left them a message, haven't gotten a call back. So we'll see if we get one today. So that's what's coming, but I did record all that. I will probably try to edit that later this week. Total disassembly. That includes the primary, the rear wheel, and the swing arm, about 2.5 hours. I was kind of farting around, so I probably could have done it in 2, but 2.5 hours. So that's what's coming down the pike. Product review Thursday. I got 2 things I'm debating what to do it on. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. I'm Yogi Clint. Have a safe day. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy this sunshine, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.